Alright, probably the easiest way to approach this problem is to get rid of all your fractions. And the way to do that is to find the lowest common denominator and multiply both sides of the equation by that lowest common denominator. The denominators we have are 2 and 3. So then the lowest number that 2 will divide into evenly and that 3 will divide into evenly is 6. So we're going to multiply everything by 6. So 6 times x over 2 equals, and then this side will multiply by 6. And I'll have to distribute the 6 on this side. But 2 will go into 6 3 times. And then I'll have to distribute the x on this side. So on the left-hand side, I just have 3x. On the right-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and write it out, distributed. And 3 will go into 6 twice, which is good. That's why we used a common denominator, so that we would get rid of all our fractions. So we have 3x is equal to 2x minus 6. And then we can subtract 2x from both sides of the equation, and we're done. X is equal to negative 6. A quick check of this solution, it would be to plug the negative 6 back in for our x and see if we get a true statement. And when we do that, on the left-hand side we have negative 3, and on the right-hand side, negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2, and then minus 1. And negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3, so it does check out. And that's how those are done. Now this problem has a few parts. The first part wants to know what value or values of the variable make the denominator 0. So what we do is take each of our denominators and set them equal to 0. So that's the first denominator, set that equal to 0, and we'll know what values make this 0. So if we subtract 36 from both sides of the equation, we have 9x is equal to negative 36. And then if we divide by 9, we have x is equal to negative 4. So if we plug negative 4 into this equation for x, it's going to give us 0 for a denominator. It would give us 0 for this denominator. And if we notice, if we plug in negative 4 in this denominator, we would also get 0. So that is the same value that makes the denominator 0 anywhere in the equation. There's no way to get 9 equal to 0, so we don't have to bother trying to set it equal to it. It just doesn't happen. So since if it doesn't have a variable in the denominator, you don't have to worry about it. If there is a variable in the denominator, set that equal to 0 and solve. So I'll go ahead and do it for the second one, even though I already noticed that negative 4 would also make this one 0. But if you're not sure, always just set it equal to 0 and solve. So subtracting 4 from both sides of the equation will give us x equals negative 4 again. So that's the only value. So that would be the A part. So the A part says the restrictions are x cannot equal negative 4. That's where you put your negative 4. If x equals negative 4 gives us 0 as a denominator, trying to divide by 0 is undefined. That's why we can't have x equal negative 4. Now for the second part, it says keeping the restrictions in mind, solve the equation. So we're going to do the same thing we did a while ago with the other equation, find the least common denominator, and then multiply everything by that least common denominator and solve for x. The denominators that we have here, we've already looked at, the 9x plus 36 and the x plus 4, and we also have 9. Now, to find the least common denominator, we need to make sure that we factored everything. 9, you could break down into 3 times 3, but that's not going to help a whole lot for this problem. If we factor the 9x plus 36, both of those terms, the 9x and the 36, are divisible by 9, so I'm going to factor that out. So if I factor out a 9, I get x plus 4. Because if I multiply this back out, 9 times x would give me 9x. 9 times positive 4 will give me a positive 36. So I know I factored it correctly. Then I can see now that I have an x plus 4, which is one of my other denominators, and I have the 9, which is my third denominator. So I know that this is already the least common denominator. So if I multiply each sides of the equation by this, it'll get rid of my fractions. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write it out this way. It makes it a little easier to see how this works out. And I'm going to rewrite that since I had already had it factored on that side of the equation. And then I'm going to multiply this side of the equation by that. And I'm going to have to distribute. I'm going to draw a line so that I can kind of separate this a little bit. But I'm going to have to distribute this and multiply it by both of these terms here on this side of the equation, just like I did on the last one. Now these match perfectly, so that it goes into itself one time. So all I have left on this side of the equation is a 1. So 1 is equal to, and then if I distribute that, 9 times x plus 4, and multiply it by the 5 over x plus 4, you can see that the x plus 4's cancel out. And then I have minus, and I'm going to go ahead and put the 9 times x plus 4 times 4 over 9. And then I can see that the 9's cancel. And so what I'm left with on this side is 9 times 5 minus, and I've got this 4 times the quantity x plus 4. So I'm going to need to distribute that, but you can see now how the equation is working out. It's something not unlike some of the other things that we've done. So we have negative 4 times the x and a negative 4 times the 4. So we'll end up with 1 equal 45 minus 4x minus 16. And I'm going to leave that for you to finish up. Now the only thing that you want to be careful with is the very first part of the question asked us what can we not have for an answer. It says what would make the denominator 0, which would make the make it undefined. You can't divide by 0. So if we end up with an answer that is negative 4, then we have no solution. If that's the only thing that works, we don't have a solution at all. So that's what you've got to watch out for on these. You can get all the work done, but if you get the answer to be negative 4, that means there's not a solution that works in this equation. And I hope this helps.